Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalyna. Let's talk leadership.
This episode would not be possible without Anchor. It's free and the easiest way to make a podcast. They're creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, so good to be here with you, and as always, I would love to remind you to engage with this show. You're listening, and that means that you have opinions, thoughts, feelings, ideas, and I would love to hear them. You can send me a message via voice note on the platform for this podcast, or you can write me an email. It's all in the show notes. You can also review, like, and subscribe the show. I'm here to talk, yes, but also to listen and learn, and that's really why I do this show, to be able to explore interesting topics, chat about them, get feedback, have interviews with amazing people. That's what we're here for. So please engage with me as you feel comfortable and inspired. Speaking of inspiration, today, something that I think, it's just been coming up again and again in these different contexts, and I think I need to speak on it. Now is the time. Essentially, I'd like to chat about the idea of childlike wonder and play, and I think we relate the two. So if you're a child, you're allowed to play. You get older, when you have kids of your own, you play with them, or you might play sports. You might watch people playing sports, but play has sort of a bad rap. It's like, no, I'm a grown-up. I do things. I get things done. I have tasks. I have responsibilities. But something funny happens, and I think it's around our teenage years where we're supposed to be cool. And we get into this sort of hardened, sometimes cynical view of the world, and it's because we have life experiences, right? So there's a reason why people become cynical and become hardened to the world. And I think that what I'm noticing and listening to, reading about, and witnessing my own life is that people that have really figured out this game of life realize that it's meant to be played. And that means approaching it from a playful place, with a playful spirit, and this isn't to be naive, so I don't want to confuse the two. But I was recently at Jordan Peterson's lecture, and he spoke on this and had amazing examples from philosophers, and he talked about monkeys, and there's a host of different subject matter, with the end result being play. Bring play to your life. And then I'm reading The Energy of Money by Dr. Nemeth, and funnily enough, again, it's like, you want to reach your goals? Goals are playing toward where you're going to score. Taking an object toward where you can score a goal. I mean, it's from a game perspective, and I think that's what really goals are meant to be, and it's so much more inspiring and exciting. Sometimes it's like, oh, I have to do my taxes, I have to go here, I have to apply for the job, I have to get the groceries, I need to walk the dog, I need to get up at 6 a.m, I need to sit in rush hour traffic, I need to send a letter to my friend, or a birthday card, I need to do the laundry. It's all of these needs and shoulds and musts, and they're all tasks. And this book, I'll link to it, it's just brilliant in the way that she encapsulates this idea. And I think it's not a new idea. I think many great thinkers and really children actually point us to this. And recently I was at Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios in Orlando, and this was awakened in me again as well. And I have the most fun when I'm playful. And playful doesn't mean the same thing for everyone. And let me clarify again that this doesn't mean you don't have to be goofy, over the top, loud, rowdy. It doesn't have to be what somebody defines as playful. Play and playful and a playful spirit is what you make it. It's your version of play. And I think we can see this when we look at how kids play when they're young. Not every child plays the same way or wants to play the same games. right? What games did you play as a kid? For me, so many imaginary games and worlds, and I loved, Harry Potter and that whole kind of magical fantasy idea. And I also really loved playing school and teacher and lining up my bears and dolls and having them listen to me and my little chalkboard. And I loved that. That was play for me. And organizing systems, and even I remember in my grandparents' driveway, I would have parking lots, and I would organize. I made a library system for my books. Like, everything was about creating these systems and organizing things and having them be really efficient, which is funny. I loved that sense of order in that way, but that was play. I wasn't doing it because anyone told me I had to. I was motivated to have an efficient system. So it's really interesting because some of these key skills and interests and ways of being do show up in play when we're kids very strongly. The play of communication and storytelling, I loved that. I loved that so much. And singing, I loved to sing, and that was playful. And yes, it took practice, and I did singing lessons, and there was, certain steps towards some level of proficiency, and you continue to practice and you gain a level of mastery. But within anything like that, I think if you see it as a game and playful, you reach those different levels of proficiency and into mastery with a huge sense of joy, enjoyment. And I actually talk about this in my book, which you'll be seeing late this year, early next year, which is very exciting. And I think contrastingly, the way I approached this book initially was more of a task, was more of a, okay, I did this campaign, I need to now complete the book. And really in writing it, all the way up until this point now in editing and finding a publisher and moving through this process, I can say that I have regained my sense of joy and play in this process. And the whole reason I wanted to write this book in the first place, to remind people that we can have fun, that we can push boundaries in our lives as to what we think is possible and go after our wildest dreams. And if this sounds completely unrealistic and just out there, well, that's all that goals are. You have a dream, you have something that you wish you could have, and you go about setting up tasks that'll help you to get to your goal, which will achieve, accomplish, manifest, bring to life your dream. So let's make no mistake about this. This is not at all fluffy. I have this wild dream. I've convinced myself that I can't get it because it's unrealistic right now. And it's unrealistic right now because maybe I haven't done anything about it. Maybe I haven't researched anything. Maybe I don't have anyone in my corner supporting me to do it. Maybe no one in my family or friends have ever done it, so it seems impossible. Well, let me tell you, most of these dreams that people have, there's somebody out there that's done it, is doing it, that we can reference and learn from. And so anything that's ever been daunting, writing a book, super daunting for me. I'm definitely more of a verbal person, communicator, if you've realized. This is my forum. This is what I love. I love sitting down with a friend with a cup of coffee or tea or water, some snacks, and just chatting it out. Like, this is what I love. So writing a book was like, I never did well in English class. Not really, not exceptionally. It wasn't something that was like, wow, Kalyna, you're this brilliant writer. And I've realized that I can be a brilliant writer with support from people that are brilliant at writing. And so I can take my ideas and my stories and the things that I like to convey verbally, and I can distill them and structure them, which I like, right? The structure, the efficiency. So I can structure them and make them to a place where they are written and cohesive, and they make sense, and they flow from one story to another, build upon each other, have a point at the end of them. And I mean, wow, to say I've finished a whole manuscript, yes, it took me a while. Yes, I rewrote it. Yes, I pretty much, after my car accident, completely tore it down and put it back up again in a completely different way. Yes, I added in a lot more faith-based elements, because I think without faith, I would not have recovered from my accident mentally from the damage that was sustained. It was so hard to feel like a shell of myself. That's definitely something that it's another episode that I really want to bring attention to, actually, which is post-concussion syndrome, traumatic brain injuries, and concussions. I think so underrepresented, but for another day. Right now, I really just want to give you this sense of play and spirit, and I know that I'm alive when I have this feeling, and you know it too, and it might be different from me. I get excitable, I talk really fast, I talk louder, my whole face is really animated when I talk, and I feel like a kid. That's how I was as a kid. I talked to everyone, I smiled, I laughed, I wanted to engage. This morning I went in to a cafe to get a warm drink, and it was like we were joking around, I was having a good time. Who says adulthood? Who says after 16 years old it's gotta be serious? I mean, yes, there's a time and a place, and yes, there are serious decisions or situations that do have long-standing or broad implications where we need to consider what it is that we're saying, doing, how we're behaving. We want to moderate the way that we're being perceived because there's a lot at stake. Okay, fine. That being said, who do you want to do business with more than somebody who's playful in spirit? And again, in spirit, right? We're not saying naive, we're not saying immature, we're not saying somebody that's head in the clouds and doesn't have any sense of what's realistically possible. We're talking about people that bring a sense of play to filing their taxes, who bring a sense of play to walking the dog or doing the dishes. You know, I've got to shout out my husband on this. It's like he takes such pride and somehow a sense of, I think it's more meditative, in doing the dishes. He's like, yep, I'll wash them. I love it. I'll do it. And for the longest time, I'm like, what? Why? I don't get it. There's a dishwasher right there. I mean, and we'll use that, but there's some level of meditation that happens, and he loves it, and he's good at it, you know, and it gives him a chance to unwind at the end of the day, and that's his thing, and great, you know. So playfulness, I think, and bringing a spirit of play to life and seeing life as a game is not to trivialize the challenges. It's not to pretend like everything is good all the time. It's not some like artificial positivity or optimism. It's, even if something's not going your way, even if something really devastating happens, which I've had multiple times happen, it's seeing yourself as the hero in your journey, which is Joseph Campbell's work, and something I talk about in my book, and many people cite his work. He was just brilliant in the way that he encapsulated the way we go through the ups and downs of our lives. And I think play brings so much more joy to the ups and downs. You know, it's like if you're going on a hike, I learned a lot about this in Switzerland, where if you're going up a mountain and you're tired, or it seems steep, or it's cold, or it's rainy, wet, you're just tired, maybe it's hot, I mean, whatever, and you want to stop. If you have somebody along the ride with you, it's a hell of a lot better, because they can motivate you, they can support you, they can maybe give you a snack, you can remind each other to drink water, you can joke along the way. So it's nice to have a partner, right? B, something bad happens. You find a way to resolve it. You can find a way to resolve it either, and yes, there are stress response things that are obviously, they just happen sometimes, like, okay, an emergency situation. But you can find your way out of that in a thankful, grateful way. And so yes, in some emergency situations, very rarely, I think, bringing a sense of play might not feel like you're honoring the situation. But that being said, a sense of play for me is also curiosity. And when I think of certain emergency situations, you've definitely got to be curious and then very responsive and able to pivot what's going on based on the emergency, right? Whatever is going on. Somebody stops breathing or whatever, right? Case may be. So even in the most challenging of circumstances, I think a sense of play is very tightly linked and interwoven with the quality of creativity. And I think being creative and curious, so curiosity and then creative based on what you find out, can be useful even in a very serious scenario. So I think no matter what we're up against, I think if we bring a sense of play to what it is that we're coming up against, even the most challenging parts of life, death, loss, grief, accidents, illness, I think if we look at it as something that can be solved, that can be worked around, that can be navigated, even if it is to just maintain or to bring solace to people. I mean, I've seen people at end-of-life care. I've spent a decent amount of time in hospitals, and the people that keep their spirits all the way to the very end, it's inspiring. And with such limited physical either mobility or even cognitive abilities, I've just seen people keep such a sense of joy and camaraderie for their fellow humans, even in the most dire of circumstances. So, to me, this is a call to play, and play means curiosity, it means creativity, it means openness to whatever degree, and it means being willing to explore things. I think that's what kids, and they see things with beginner's mind as well. So they're curious, they see things with a beginner's mind, they're willing to explore an environment. I was just watching a little girl by the pool. She was so cute, playing with her doll, and she had a stroller, and she was going, and she was just exploring, because she was outside of the pool area and it's all fenced, and she was just exploring and looking at the flowers and talking to herself and just having a great time. No agenda, no goal, just exploring. And I think if we couple that explorer, creative, curious, fun-loving, joyful spirit with SMART goals, so most of us have heard of those, so just specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. If we can then make them very specific, and this is something that a lot of authors, including Dr. Maria Nemeth, but many, many others in coaching, in the training I've done, talk about having clarity being the power to bringing your dreams, your wildest dreams, into reality. Because if you can conceptualize it and really clarify it and have it be specific, then you can have it, because then you can create it. Without specificity, it's very difficult to create something like, I want to be happier in my marriage. It's like, well, how, why, when, where, like, what is that like? And that's what coaching, I think, really does as a profession, is it takes somebody's wildest, most ambiguous, let's say, aspirations and desires from a place of feeling, like they want to feel more confident, they want to feel more successful, these kind of broad feelings that people want in life, or these broad goals they want, like, I want to be healthier, I want to be a better parent, I want to be a better business person. They take those broad ideas and they support the individual to really distill them into very specific goals and actions. That's what I think coaches do, alongside, if somebody is very task oriented, supporting the person to go broad and actually build big goals based off of even bigger dreams, rather than simply playing small in the task space. Like, okay, I'll do my taxes, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I've got clients that come into sessions like that. Okay, we need to make a list. It's like, well, what are you really looking for here? Right? And it's like certainty and confidence and feeling safe, and but there's more than just the to-do list, because people don't need to pay me to make a to-do list, right? So how do we bring a sense of play to all that we do? The dishes, the dog walking, the laundry, waking up at 6 a.m., being home on a sick day, getting rained out of your plans, going camping, building a business. How do we bring a genuine sense of play to our lives? I think that's the question that I would love to leave you with today, and I'm so excited to explore this topic further, because the more it comes up for me and the more I lean into it, I just get so excited, because I feel like I personally sometimes get so caught up on the goal and the idea and what it needs to be like, and how am I going to do it, and am I on time, and is it happening the way I thought, and these expectations, rather than bringing a sense of curiosity and play to the process while being clear on what I want. So it's not sacrificing clarity and just saying, okay, I'm just going to really do anything on a whim. It's being very clear on what you want and then enjoying the ride, I think, a little bit. So this is just so inspiring to me. I hope you found some uplifting excitement, joy in this episode, because I think that's what play does for us. It just brings, and it attracts and magnetizes people to us as well, right? Because you want to be with somebody that's genuinely excited about what they're doing. That's why you buy their product or buy their book or their thing, or you want to be close to them, you want to be friends to them, you follow them on Instagram. Like, why do you follow someone? Because you like the feeling that they give you when you're on their page, hopefully. And if you don't, maybe that's not the person to follow, right? And that's something to look at. Is this person bringing me energy and joy. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm married, I get it. Sometimes the same person can be, you know, the bringer of joy and also challenge. So don't get me wrong, I'm not just in a happy mood right now trying to fluff off play with no regard for the challenges of life. But when I think about the biggest challenges I've had in my life so far, the things that really helped me were bringing a sense of play to, for example, the rehabilitation process that I underwent. I did visual rehab for my eyes. My vision was very limited after my car accident. And I mean, all we did was play games. That's what visual rehab was. And I say all, and I sort of negate the power of it. I mean, it was huge, right? Because it was retraining my eyes to be able to see peripheral vision versus my left eye and right eye, how strong they were. We did exercises and visual, it was visual exercise, but they were in the form of games. And so it did feel like play, even though we were training the muscles of my eye. And so I think this is a similar thing. We're training muscles in a certain way, but I think we can have a bit more fun along the way, especially with things related to work. So I wonder how you can bring a bit more joy to your work, because work is inevitable. But, you know, are you going toward your wildest dreams? What are they? What if you knew they would come true? Really, like if you set your mind to them, you knew that you would find a way, one way or another, even if it didn't happen exactly as you think or thought, or the timeline. You know, there's such power in being excited about what it is you're up to. So I hope you can find some enjoyment and excitement. I almost am like, I don't want to end this episode because this concept makes me so happy. I really hope this brings you a renewed spirit and hope and feeling of excitement toward life, because we can set really big goals and play our way to them. I look forward to being with you again soon.